Welcome to ESC Television. My name is Joep Perk. I'm a professor of health sciences, posted in Sweden. Also the chairman of the 5th Joint European Society's Task Force on CVD Prevention in Clinical Practice. We're going to talk about preventive cardiology, and that is Christi Deaton. Christi, who are you?
I'm Christi Deaton, and I'm Professor of Nursing at the University of Manchester in England, and I've also been the coordinator for the cluster that includes prevention, rehabilitation, sports, nursing, and allied professionals, what we call Village 4.
Christi, this has been so far a tremendous congress. It's such a load of new information. Can you give me a good way to find your way, in this massive exposure?
Well, there's so many abstracts, but one of the things you can do is to look at what we featured. So every year we take some of the high-scoring abstracts that are grouped into a particular topic, and we feature those. This year it's about rethinking exercise and exercise training. So it features a lot of studies that are focusing on different patient populations. So exercise training in people with heart transplant and decompensated heart failure, and also the effect it can have on those that don't already have heart disease and may be at risk. So it's a very good session, or it's a very good way of finding out what we think is important. And then we wrap that all up with a state-of-the-art lecture that brings together the science of what we know. But I know that you've been going to a lot of presentations, and I wonder if there's anything that you've really noticed about some of the studies that have been presented here.
Well, I'm still slightly short of breath running from the EuroAspire 4 presentation, and that was a very depressing situation. We looked here in a very large group of cardiac patients throughout Europe, how they have been dealing with them in the way of treating them and also in lifestyle counseling. And the outcome is a misery. We still see that throughout Europe, half of the patients that smoked before their infarction still continue to smoke. We have not solved the problem of obesity. It's simply getting worse and worse. And if you look at the number of people invited to cardiac rehabilitation programs, which we actually recommend in the guidelines, less than 40% is actually invited. And still those that are invited, they come. That's one study that made me depressed. Another thing which I'm very curious about will come tomorrow. It's the PURE study, where we have compared preventive cardiology in the high-income countries, the middle and the low-income countries. And then you see now this whole wave of cardiovascular disease is rolling into the middle and low-income countries. How completely different the issues are in these countries. Our guidelines in these countries will not work if you go to a country where it costs you 3 days of working in order to pay for your drugs. Forget about our guidelines. We need to help these countries. We need to listen with them together and find new solutions. And looking both at EuroAspire 4 and looking at the PURE study, it really calls for other categories of people being engaged. It could be allied health professionals. And here I think nurses can play a very large role. Do you think nurses should be engaged more in order to solve this dilemma?
Well, I think you know the answer to that. I certainly do. And you'll be pleased to know that we've had a session for the nurses and the allied health professionals where we really focused on the role of nurses in implementing guidelines. And we focused on the cardiovascular prevention guidelines, talking about what we know, the evidence that we have, looking at the different strategies that we can use. So there was a lot of emphasis on what we can do, because I think you point out the problems of it's not just about paying for drugs, but it really is about getting lifestyle change. And that's something that I think everybody needs to be involved in, but certainly nurses and allied health professionals have a big role in that. As well, we've got other sessions that are looking at new frontiers in behavioral intervention. So again, helping people to make those changes that will lead to healthier lives, and how we might use technology as well as the usual face-to-face to do that. Other questions that come up for people are things like, what about sexual activity? And it's always a difficult thing for people to talk about. There's been a recent position paper that our Council on Cardiovascular Nursing and Allied Professions co-authored with the American Heart Association about counseling patients about sexual activity. So we've got a how-to session. So if you feel like you don't know how to talk about sex with your patients, that's a good session to go to.
Christi, a good congress for me is you leave and you feel you are wiser and still confused at a higher level, but you also feel challenged. You feel really, we need to do things. There is so much lying out there. Do you agree that what we have learned here will increase our enthusiasm for preventive cardiology?
I think it will. I certainly hope it will. But there's so much that's going on at this Congress. The thing is, it's stimulating. There are a lot of ideas. You have the opportunity to talk to experts as well as your colleagues and new investigators. And we've barely scratched the surface around a number of topics that you'll find in Village 4. So I hope it does inspire people to come, if not this year, definitely come next year.
Well, we hope we get even better results next year. Thank you for talking to me, and I hope this session will be of interest to the audience.
Thank you, Joep.
Thank you.
ESC Congress 365 is your free access to ESC Congress content all year long.